भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ भगवते वासुदेवाय देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवते उत्तमाश्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्टिके ॐ ज्ञानातिमन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथं विद्धं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणललिता श्रीशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमस्ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णहस्ताभितले प्रभुपादतिप्रिया श्री गिरिराजाय स्वामिने सुभक्ता हराला श्रीहरि नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णहस्ताभितले श्रीदेव स्वामी नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य So we are reading Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 from text 8. So the yoga of the Supreme Person. So Krishna is describing, giving us an image of what is the material world and the source of the material world. So the source of the material world is the spiritual world. So remember, source of the material world is the spiritual world. So it is simply upside down. So the source is the spiritual world. And text 5, Krishna says, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. Those who are free from false prestige, nirmana, moha jita sanga dosha. Those who are freed from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust. So these are the qualifications. The qualification to enter the eternal abode. Now, text 6, Krishna described that eternal abode. That supreme abode of mind is not illumined by sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Then text 7. So who are we? So Krishna gave a description of the spiritual world and described who are we. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So just look at all of us, all these billion of people, right? Human beings, leave aside the insects, the aquatics, the plants, the beasts, the reptiles, who are Jeev, but they are part and parcel of Krishna. So, text 8 now. It's reading here in text 7, second paragraph. Prabhupada is saying, the living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, Supreme Lord, they're all eternal, not temporary manifestation. The word karshati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bounded, either shackled by iron chains. He's bounded by the false ego. And the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. So this mind, when this mind is hooked up on an idea, it catches an idea. And where I lost it. Yeah, the conditioned soul is bound up by the false ego. So this false ego, that I can control this world. Everybody is under the false impression that I can control this world. So some people, when they may, actually become kings or the governments, and they want to control the world. But as we go smaller, in every household, everybody is thinking, I'm the controller. This is the main tussle that goes on in household life. Everybody wants to control the other. The conditioned soul is bound up, either shackled by iron chain. He's bounded by the false ego, and the mind, the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. So now let's read text 8. Shariram yat avapnoti yachapyuttakramatishvaraha grihitvaitani samyati vayurgandham ivashayat. Yes, Shikala, you want to read?
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Here, the living entity is described as Ishwar, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade. And if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Lok in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called parshati, or struggling for existence. Hare Krishna.
Mhm. So how the soul transmigrates from one body to the next is described here. So the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life. What is that conception? What is that? What's the meaning? What is this referring to? The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life. This conception of life. So he carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. So what is this example that's given here?
That he's the enjoyer, and he would want to enjoy again.
Yeah, so that enjoying mood takes a shape. It takes a shape of a particular body and creates an attitude in the person. Right? So that's what makes us the artificial us in this world. It's not our real self. More and more people are becoming artificial. They are no longer able to be themselves. So they gather a certain conception of who they are or what they should be. So many, I mean, it's our daily life. So this is the science of transmigration of the soul. So Krishna is giving a very significant example here. Air is neutral. Is it true? Air is neutral, all right? But that air, when it passes over a bed of roses, it carries the aroma of roses, all right? And the same air, if it touches dirt, will bring a foul smell, right? Air is neutral. Air has nothing to do with the bed of roses or the dirt. But it picks up, that the air will pick up the aroma of nice aroma or foul aroma. Foul aroma. So similarly, the Atma is neutral. If he comes in contact or she comes in contact with a certain set of people, circumstances, then he or she develops an idea of what to be. And then with that misconception, this accrued identity, so he takes this and he enters a body and he behaves that way. Behaves that way. So thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower grade. So he has that minute dependence. And what he wants to do, the change of body, and so the change his body undergoes depends upon him. So how? He's changing body now. How? What next body he's getting? So he says depends on him. How?
वो जैसे कर्म करेगा, मतलब वो जैसे उसका चित्त पे उसका इंप्रेशन आएगा, जो संस्कार वो बनाएगा वैसा नेक्स्ट बॉडी उसको मिलेगा. जो सोचेगा, जैसे बिहेव करेगा, जैसा कर्म करेगा.
Yeah. So this Jeev, he will use his independence. You know, it's like when we have to take a hard decision, sometimes we know we wish somebody else will take the decisions, right? So that we don't take the blame if something goes wrong. Right? So he uses his minute dependence, and you know, and then you get the body. Say, anyway, who gave you this body? You chose your body, right? You chose your body. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. All right? The responsibility is upon the individual soul. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created. So remember, this consciousness has been compared to what in this analogy?
Air.
Yes, the air. So at the time of death, the consciousness he has created, so actually it's the mind that is creating the next type of body. The mind. So that's why sometimes we say the Rashi, right? That's why we You say, how do you know somebody? By the Rashi, what type of, how, what is he born with? What is his overall tendency? So this mind, because, like in Western astrology, they take the sun, but in Indian astrology, they take what? The moon, right? Rashi is dependent on moon. So meaning your mind, if you want to know what you are, anyway, if you're expert enough to able to decipher all this, so your mind, it's described. What type of person you are, it's your mind. So if he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he should change to a cat's or dog's body. So how cats behave and how dogs behave, So if we are behaving like this, cats and dogs, what are the karma that a human being, a jeev does, and then he becomes a cat? What are the karma, that this jeev, what he does, and then he becomes a dog? This is all his mind and his consciousness. Yeah. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he should change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness and godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. What does that mean, fixing the mind and godly qualities? Fixing his consciousness and godly qualities. What is this?
मतलब भगवान को याद करे, भगवान से रिलेटेड, मतलब जप करे, पढ़े, अच्छे लोगों की संगति करे, सत्संग करे, तो वो माइंड में वो ही रहेगा.
Yeah, and he develops godly qualities.
Qualities.
Right? So this mind, when it gets focused on Krishna consciousness, so his focus changes from so many other things, and it gets locked in Krishna consciousness. Then he's able to change into a deva. Change and become a deva. And if he's in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Lok in the spiritual world and associate with Krishna. So one gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is said here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops. So it is the subtle body which carries the conception of the next body. So when the soul comes out from this material body, gross body, here it is next verse. So this process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called parshati, or struggle for existence. Text 9. Shrotram chakshus parashanam cha rasanam grihanam evacha ajisthaya manaschaiva vishayan upasevate. All right, Anupama, you want to read?
The living translation. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular particular set of sense objects. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Purport. In other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life he gets a cat and dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure, like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When, therefore, one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms. For there are uh, 84 million species.
Okay, so now see, we had asked why this chapter is so much, in India, they recite this 15th chapter, as you know, it is given. How the soul lives one body and takes on another body. So the living entity thus taking another gross body obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are group about the mind. I was reading this Garud Puran, so it describes, how the Atma, when he comes out of the gross body, he becomes thumb size. That's the size, he becomes thumb size. And it's like the essence. So that's the subtle body. So then it has to travel. So then when it goes into now the womb is selected now, the next birth. Next body is selected. So there is a time period when he's traveling, he has to cross so many stuff. And then when he enters now, when the womb has been decided, so we have read how like a caterpillar moves from one leaf onto another leaf, right? Meaning it will not give up. It will not give up the previous leaf until it has entered, right? So here Bhagavad Gita has described that. So what's happening is that the next body is being formed, right? In the womb of the mother. So the ear is getting developed, the eye is getting developed, the tongue, the nose, etc. And all this thing that is being developed is according to that trait. All right, that trait, his mind, right? So the subtle body is a trait. So he was there in his mind at the time of death. What does he want? So he is acquiring the new house. So all this, so that the ear, how it is, the eye, how it is, the tongue, the nose, the sense of touch, everything group around the mind, meaning that soul that is in the subtle body. So when finally everything is ready, the house is ready, then finally he leaves behind that prayed body. And he enters the new body. So much is described, the secret of this, the body, the soul, the transmigration. It's horrific how we are in total ignorance and therefore we live life recklessly, absolutely and completely recklessly. So he thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So what happens? In other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, so if he's human and he adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life, so what happened? Because it's fit in, because it's just subtle body, right? And it's size of a thumb. All right. So the next body is being formed. So from the subtle body, he just slips in. And he leaves behind the previous body. You follow? You follow how it's happening, the transmigration from one body to the next? It's just like pouring a liquid into a different shape of cup.
So Mataji, this new body
Slips. He slips.
Mataji, this new body which the living entity is forming, his mind is forming, will only depend, is continuously forming throughout his life or only at this time of death? Because there will be activity.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yeah, that's what we just read. We just read it. Whole life. Whatever he has been doing, whole life. So he creates that consciousness. So at the time of death, so he leaves behind the gross body, and he becomes that subtle body, which comes the size of a thumb. It moves, all right? And it's being carried, actually. Being carried, because it's helpless. That Atma has gone into deep sleep, total deep sleep, right? So now the subtle body is being carried and being inserted into a new body. So as the other shape of the body is being formed, so this Atma is being poured in. I just described, right? Like this caterpillar. He moves from one leaf to the next, and then he enters into that new gross body. And he fits in, and his consciousness is exactly the shape of that new body. So consciousness is originally pure like water. But if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, but the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. So, if we want to know how a human being becomes a cat, then we have to observe the nature of cats. What do? Cats, right? And dogs, what do dogs do? And therefore, one is situated in Krishna consciousness. So real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can become anything, cat, dog, hog, demigod, or any of the 84 lakh species. Okay? All right? So now we read text 10. उत्क्रमन्तं स्थितं वापि भुजानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढाननुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः. Shikala, you want to read?
Hare Krishna. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. The word Jnana Chakshusha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot
Is it my
understand.
internet that's not proper?
Pardon? Pardon? Hare Krishna Mataji.
Is it my internet that's breaking? Is it my
Yes,
internet that's
sometimes.
breaking, or is it that?
Sometimes it breaks when you speak. You can hear me?
No, like for you, it's completely broken. Yeah, now I'm hearing.
Okay. The word Gnana Chakshusha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances and he is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand their change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in this material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditional life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. Very much.
Yes. So Prabhupada, I think I said it earlier, no? That it's so risky. We don't know. We can't understand what's going on, right? How the soul, what is death, what is the afterworld, the rebirth. So we live life in a very casual way. We think we are free to do what we want. It's only, hit and take whatever you're able to get and enjoy life. We don't know how you're being chased after by the laws of nature. Especially in Kali Yuga, people have very heavy karma, extremely heavy karma. And we are harassed so badly by material nature. So Prabhupada said, if you happen to know of this science, you're very, what? What Prabhupada said? You happen to know of this science, you're very what? Fortunate. Right? You're very fortunate. So Prabhupada said, to know how the soul is moving from one body to the next requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures. Right? I just said I didn't know this. This Garud Puran is describing this, and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. So the horror of living in this material world and being trapped without release is being described here. Text 11. Yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantyatmanyavasthitam yatanto pitatmano nainam pashyanti achetasaha. Rashmi, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. There are many transcendentalists on the path of spiritual self-realization, but one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. The word yogina is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well-built and healthy. They have no other information. They are called yatantopi akritatmanaha. Even though they are endeavoring in a so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of the transmigration of the soul. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord, in other words, the Bhakti yogis, those engaged in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place.
Okay. So here Prabhupada is saying that so the endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. So this curiosity about the afterworld, this heavy curiosity about the afterworld can be known only by endeavoring transcendentalists, meaning sadhakas, proper sadhakas, but not by those who are doing gymnastic or bodybuilding and be healthy. So, meaning even those who are on the path may not be able to see the soul. 12. Yadadityagatam tejo ratas bhashayate khilam yachandramasi yachanno tattejo vidhimamakam. Okay, Anupama, will you read?
Yes, ma'am. Translation. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. Purport. The unintelligent cannot understand how things are taking place, but one can begin to be established in knowledge by understanding what the Lord explains here. Everyone sees the sun, moon, fire, and electricity. One should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, and the splendor of electricity of fire are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness lies a great deal of advancement advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. The living entities are essentially the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and He is giving herewith the hint how they can come back to Godhead, back to home. From this verse, we can understand that the sun is illuminating the whole solar system. There are different universe and solar systems, and there are different suns, moons, and planets also. But in each universe, there is only one sun. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.21, the moon is one of the stars. Nakshatranam aham shashi. Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare their foodstuff. They set fire to start the factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So if one can understand that the light and splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. By the moonshine, all the vegetables are nourished. The moonshine is so pleasing that people can easily understand that they are living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Without His mercy, there cannot be sun. Without His mercy, there cannot be moon. And without His mercy, there cannot be fire. And without the help of sun, moon, fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul.
Okay. So the unintelligent cannot understand how things. So here Krishna is describing his own abode. The splendor of the sun which dissipates the darkness of this whole world comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire also come from me. For such a rahasya, right? That we are the soul is rahasya. It's confidential knowledge. So one should simply try to understand the splendor of the sun, of the moon, electricity, everything is coming from the Supreme Godhead. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness lies a great deal of advancement from the conditioned soul in this material world. I'm not able to read this sentence properly. So it's not making sense to you. But if so, in such a conception, meaning that even though I'm going to be very advanced. But if in my consciousness, I get sufficiently convinced that the splendor of the moon, the splendor of the sun is directly Krishna. That will be the beginning of our Krishna consciousness. Because every day we are in touch with the sun, every day we are in touch with the moon, every night in touch with the moon, right? So gradually by association, we start to develop our real personalities. So one who should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, the splendor of electricity or fire are coming from the Supreme Person of Godhead. In such a conception of life, so it's only this much, it's more like, those Aborigines, like they worship thunder, they worship this, right? So it's like pantheism. So even if we focus and say, the sun is the grace of the Lord, the moon is the grace of the Lord, we are starting our Krishna consciousness. This much. So Krishna is giving so many hints how we can become Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada is speaking of astronomy here, right? Astronomy. So what did he say? Nakshatra, right? Yat Chandra Masi Yat Chagno Tat Teja Vidhi Mavata. Let me find this. From this verse, we can understand that the sun is illuminating the whole solar system. There are different universes and solar systems, and there are different suns, moons, and planets, etc. But in each universe, there is only one sun. And moon is one of the nakshatra. Right? The moon is a nakshatra, meaning it's a star. All else are all the stars. They're all stars. So sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence of the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. So that's why we pray the sun god, right? We chant Gayatri. We pray to the sun god. But this sun god actually is emanating from Krishna. Yeah. From Krishna. With the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. They set the fire to prepare their food, start factories, etc. So we require sunrise, we require moonrise, and we require fire. So here, okay, here it is. So if one can understand that the light and splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Person Godhead, Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. So this is how it is that our consciousness of Krishna has to arise from somewhere. So only seeing these objects in the sky, experiencing their heat or coolness. So all this will awaken our Krishna consciousness if we connect Krishna with this. All right, so now this is a different section that has started actually from text 13 till anyway, we go until the end, but we'll stop here.
Mataji, in relation to this verse 15.12, I was just reading that this earth is tilted. Our earth's axis is not straight, it's tilted and it rotates around the sun. So if the earth's axis was not tilted, if it was straight, then the weather would be there, but 6 months we would get only sun, and then 6 months we would get only night. So how, if the modern scientists are saying that one big explosion happened and all this explosion created all this, then how that even if they was to think that how that, okay, the first of all, how can an explosion create something? Because when the pressure cooker blasts, then everything is destroyed, or the bomb is dropped, everything is destroyed. And then this explosion which they are saying, it has put this earth in that perfect axis. So even apparently this, I was reading this BBC article that even if slight tilt was less, then all this we would half the side, half of us would freeze and half of us would burn. So everything has been placed so perfectly.
Yeah, because we have to work out our karma, right? Isn't it? We have to work out our karma, so the place is set so properly so that we can live and work out our karma. Anyway, I'm not an astronomer or anything. I'll figure out all this stuff. But yeah. So we are living on Earth by the mercy of moon and sun. If there's no moon, there's no vegetation. Right. So this is another section that's starting here. We start here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.